Hi all, good morning. Welcome to another episode of the world's most famous chess combinations. Now, you've probably seen this position before. It is from the famous game between Byrne and Fischer that was played during the Rosenwald tournament in New York, 1956. By that time, Fischer was only 13 years of age, and he played an extraordinary combination. Now, sitting behind the black pieces, he appears to be in some problems, but he solves them with a bang. Now, can you see what Fischer played here? If you like, pause the video, take a time out to study the position. I will count to 5, and then we will get back together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're back. Now, before I give away the solution, which you may have found in the meantime, by the way, I would like to explore the position a little bit more to try and explain why it seems that black is in a spot of trouble. Now, first of all, of course, we can see that white's bishop is attacking his queen, and that white's queen is attacking his knight. On the other hand, we should also note that black is completely developed, and that white still is stuck in the center here with an uncastled king, which means that the king could be in dire straits subject to mating attacks, and also, of course, that this rook is not participating at the moment. Okay, well, that does not remove the fact that the bishop is still attacking the queen, and that also the knight on c3 is loose. So it appears that at the moment black has two immediate tactical problems. Now, how to solve them in one move? It's possible that you came up with this move, knight b5, which is not such a bad idea, but it will leave white on top. Of course, the idea is to counter-attack white's queen, so that if white now takes on b6, black can recapture on a3, and it would just be an exchange of queens, right? But white has a very nice intermediate move here. He can play, amongst others, bishop takes f7 check, with the point that if king takes f7, white can remove his queen out of harm's way with check, queen b3. And then on the next move, of course, can safely take black's queen. So after bishop takes f7, black would have to play king h8, and then bishop takes b6, knight takes a3, forces a very good position for white, since after bishop c5, white is attacking both knight and rook. So, for instance, knight b5, but now white can win the exchange here on e8, and after rook takes e8 is probably slightly better. I wouldn't say that he's winning, because he has some weaknesses, this one for instance, and of course his king is still stuck in the center, and the rook is not active on h1, and black has a very nice pair of bishops. But with queens off the board, I suppose that white may be able to somehow consolidate sooner or later and try to make use of his extra exchange. Okay, now similar to this solution, let's go back to the starting position. You may have come up with the move knight b1, which has the same idea of counter-attacking white's queen on a3. However, after queen c1, white keeps chasing the knight, which is much less stable on b1 than it is, of course, on b5. And now black has nothing better than to save his queen with, for instance, queen c7. And after queen takes b1, white is simply a piece up. Okay. Now there are more solutions to the problem, and it's also possible you came up with this move, bishop takes f3, which in the end is also a mistake. Of course, it has the point that if white now gets greedy and goes for the queen, then black will appear on top in this line. Bishop takes d1, bishop c5, saving the bishop. And now, with a nice move, bishop e2 check, black saves his knight from c3, because after bishop e2 check and bishop takes e2, the knight can recapture on e2. And now if we look at the position, we can see that black has a knight, a pawn and a rook for the queen. Furthermore, these guys are not playing and are in each other's way, so it could well be that in this position black is actually a little bit better. Of course, this bishop is very active, this rook is very active along the open line. It's quite possible that this guy will also come here and add to the pressure. Furthermore, there will be a very nice square here on f4 for the knight, from where it may even go to d5, where it sits on a nice blockading square. So you can see that if black plays like this, he might even be better. Okay, well, you must think by now, so all this doesn't work. What did Fischer play? Or maybe you've already seen it. Let's go to the move that he played. He played the amazing bishop e6! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Now, why is this such a strong move? I think it is a strong move because it very seriously pinpoints white's major weaknesses, which are here and here, or actually maybe the complete white square diagonal. Of course, this guy here is unprotected, and this guy here is sitting on that diagonal, so any black diagonal piece appearing there would be checking white's king. And we can also see that this guy and this guy, they're also coming together on a very important diagonal square there. And let's first look at some alternatives that Donald Byrne didn't play, but that were quite feasible. First of all, he could have considered in this position queen takes c3, eliminating that knight that Fischer simply left en prise there. Simultaneously, the queen is of course protecting the bishop here on c4. But now a very important other tactical aspect of this position comes to light, because black can make use of the pin along this long diagonal in playing queen takes c5. So white takes a light piece, black takes a light piece, right? And now, if d takes c5, taking the queen, then of course bishop takes c3, also taking the queen. So neither side has lost material. It's just been an exchange, but a very good one for black, because he ended up now in an endgame where he has the pair of the bishops. He also has an extra pawn to the good. And of course, still this eternal king is still sitting here in the center, frustrating the connection between white's rook and keeping this one in the corner. So this would be a winning position for black, if played well, of course. So after bishop e6, queen takes c3 is not really a solution. Well, if this bishop on e6 is so brutal, then why not just simply take it out? I mean, we have our own bishop, it's our move. We can play bishop takes e6, can't we? Yes, we can, but you can do only one thing at a time. I mean, now the bishop is no longer protecting this vulnerable diagonal. And we can see now that with queen b5 check, black is simply mating white's king here. Look, king g1, knight e2, king f1, and we can already see the suffocation mate come to bear. King g1, and now queen f1. Normally in tactical puzzles you sacrifice this queen on g1 or on g8, but this time we can do it on f1. It's very beautiful. And of course, after the forced rook takes f1, knight e2 is checkmate. Amazing stuff. Oops! So Byrne, after bishop e6, could not play queen takes c3, and also not bishop takes e6. Of course, he saw all of this, and in the end decided to take black's queen. Hey, why not? Let's take the queen. Who cares, you know, bishop e6. Huh. Black player, were you forgetting that your queen was also on pre? Bishop takes b6. But Donald Byrne, being the strong player he was, must have already realized what was transpiring here. Because in between, of course, with check, Fischer now takes the bishop on c4 and is very slowly regaining all of his lost material. First of all, he takes use of this checking mechanism with knight e2 check, king f1, winning the pawn on d4, very brutal, king g1, and going back again with the knight to c3 to attack the rook on d1. And, you know, Byrne has nothing better to do than just go back and forth with his king, you know. It's just the position he is in, king g1. And now, only now, a takes b6. And if we do a small material count, we can see that both sides have 2 rooks. And both sides have 1 knight. So at the moment it's black's 2 bishops and 2 extra pawns against white's queen. Let's just indicate that, you know, for the sake of being clear about that. Now, normally this is already enough material compensation, but let's keep in mind that black is in this position also still attacking the queen and attacking the rook, and is therefore going to win even more material. Now, in the game, Byrne could have tried queen d6. Sorry, I'm going a little bit too fast here. Excuse me, a takes b6. In the game, Byrne played queen b4. Now this is nice in the way that the queen is of course a strong piece attacking this bishop and this knight, and in the case of knight takes d1, he could actually, for instance, take this bishop. But Fischer wants nothing of it, and he uses the extra time he has to prevent the queen from taking on c4 by playing rook a4 in between. And just notice how beautifully these black pieces are working together, because this bishop is protecting the knight, this knight is protecting the rook, and this rook indirectly is, of course, protecting the bishop. And last but not least, is also doing that with tempo, because of course the queen is attacked. So, now Donald Byrne could have played queen d6, saving his queen and simultaneously protecting the rook here on d1, but then after knight d1, queen d1, and queen takes a2, he has a terrible problem along his back rank, which will mean that black will win even more material, emerging victoriously. Okay, so then what did he play in the game after rook a4? Well, he played here queen b6, but then after knight takes d1, leaving black with rook and 2 bishops against the queen and another pawn to the good, and this king still sitting here very silly on g1. Black, of course, Bobby Fischer, had a easily winning position. And I think the game lasted for about another 10 to 15 moves, I'm not so sure, but in the end white's king was checkmated. Not on the queen, not on the king side, but on the queen side, if I remember correctly. Well, okay, that ends our discussion of this nice combination, and of course it should feature in our series of the world's most famous chess combinations. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please, until next time, bye.